come from? Where you going? What are you drinking tonight? Let's keep 'em flowing. Where do you come from? Where you going? What are you feeling tonight? And what are you showing? Where do you come from? 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 Where you going? What are you drinking tonight? Let's keep 'em flowing.
Where you come from? Where you going? Yeah, we're jamming out here. It's Super PlayStation Bros coming at you. We are on here in September.
Wait,
1-1.
September? When did that happen?
I know the hot summer is leaving us as we come into fall, but we're getting
Ours has
into
just
some gaming here.
arrived, so I don't know what's going on over your neck of the woods, but we are in the midst of a bit of a heat wave. It's insane.
Really?
It's happened in September. The rest of the year has been freezing, but yeah, today, last week, it's been wet and cold most of it. We're now in a lovely heat wave. I was at a wedding this last weekend for one of the Nerd Migos, and it was
Oh wow.
absolutely beautiful. Both of them, I've been friends with both of them before they got together. Like one of those really weird situations. Such a good day, such a good weekend, such a good celebration. I'm really happy, but I am shattered. But what I am taking, Miss Phoenix, is I'm not in work this week, so I am happy, joyful, and just full of not energy because I don't have any of that left. So whatever comes when your energy's run out, delirium maybe.
Oh wow, that is awesome. What's up, Miss Phoenix? Thanks for coming in. A wedding is always an awesome celebration. Hopefully you have recovered since then, because I know they can go late, and especially when they're with friends, and go late into the night. But that's awesome to hear. Other than that, what have you been gaming on this week? Anything in particular you've been able to pick
Ooh,
up the sticks and play some PlayStation?
I've been a bit all over the show, really. There's been a lot of mobile gaming, which, doesn't really gel with the whole PlayStation 5. I have been doing a bit of troubleshooting with remote play. I'm doing a video about remote play coming up, but mine wasn't working. I was getting like a minute's worth of content, and then I'd get like a 4-second pause. Like I could still hear the things that were going on, but I couldn't see anything that was happening. And of course, not very useful when that's happening every minute or so. So I've been doing some troubleshooting with that one, and I think I've got it resolved with a bunch of port forwarding. I had to have a replacement router from my internet provider, which is probably why I was having those issues, because obviously every time you get a new router, you need to reopen the ports and such like that. So fingers crossed that solved it. I'll be finding out when we finish this show and heading back to that one. But otherwise, it's been a little bit of Ghost of Tsushima, a little bit of God of War Ragnarok, little lot of Pistol Whip. They've got like these weekly and monthly, essentially raids, as you may know from Destiny Rudigs. They just put a load of modifiers on things, make it way more difficult, some restrictions and what have you. So I've been trying to get through them, and I haven't managed the monthly one yet. I've done the weekly and the daily, which is nice. But yeah, the monthly one has been holding me back tenfold. So at some point when I regain some physical energy, I'll be going back into that and trying to clear that, because you have to do it in one go. You can't like checkpoint it and save it or anything.
Oh wow, that's quite the stamina you have to hold out.
Oh god, yeah, it's like 5 levels, and they're not hugely long because they're done to songs. But yeah, when you've got 5 of them back to back, and you're ducking and weaving and shooting and punching and all this sort of stuff, it takes a toll if you fail on level 4. It's like I don't have the energy to do that again, sort of thing. So what about yourself,
What's
bro? What
going
have
on?
you been playing?
I have been locked into now trying to beat Demon Souls.
Yes.
Demon Souls is a beautiful looking game. I was actually blown away by how nice it looks. I would even say it rivals Elden Ring in terms of aesthetics. I know that may be crazy. Maybe it's just because I'm playing it right now, but it absolutely looks stunning. I love how the sword, it even leaves the blood splattered on your face after you take out enemies. It's an absolute challenge.
Yeah,
That Tower Knight had me stressing. That first fight, it really pushes your skill level. I mean,
it does. Yeah.
games like that have your heart beating. You're making sure you're being flawless. The amount of heals you have is limited, and building up that resource collection takes a while. So if you go into a boss fight, you're not trying again. You better make sure you do it this time. So,
100%.
oh,
Yeah, you've got to be
finally,
flawless. Yeah.
yes. Yeah. So I like that kind of environment, a game that challenges you to be better. So I look forward to getting more through that. I ran into the armored spider after the tower.
Oh, fun. That's an interesting
Same
order
run.
to go about it.
Is that I don't even know if that's the next one. I'm just like randomly
The
going
thing
through the
about
game. There's no map, right?
Yeah, the thing about Demon Souls, because it was the first of the Soulsborne titles, it was made so essentially you could tackle it in any order. Most people, just because of the way the castle is set up, did encounter the Tower Knight first. And I did it on like
Right.
the DualShock 3, a much smaller, much tighter controller, um, and a hard drive. So
PS3.
when I died, it took so much longer to retry. But watching you do it, watching you play that live on stream, I think it was yesterday for me, like that, it elicited so many of those feelings from like 2010, 2011, that sort of era when it first came out, the feelings that I had playing it. And I've said this in shows before, like seeing you experience some of the catalog that I've experienced like years in the past and seeing that first time reaction to it again, it's so joyful to see that sort of thing. It's amazing. And the fact that these games can still bring that level of joy, especially for someone like you who has played many of the later Soulsborne titles, who is so deep into Sekiro, who has completed Elden Ring a couple of times, and so on and so forth. Like to see someone like you go back to this very original origin point of it with Demon Souls and experience it and have that smile, that joy, and that punch the air moment. It's
Yeah,
magic. It
that's what I
truly
love in
is.
games. The punch the air moment for sure. It's what I chased for. I think it's what Elden Ring sort of alluded me to as my first Soulsborne from software experience, and now I'm just constantly chasing those moments because I feel like it's the pinnacle experience of gaming for me. What's up, chat? What's going on? We got Maker of Chaos. We got Cowboy, Epic Entertainment. We got Ray, the gaming cyborg, and Ron Slusher. How's it going,
All
gentlemen?
you
Hope you
beautiful
are all
people.
doing
I
fantastic.
tipped my hat. See, I've got a
And
hat
what's
today.
Cowboy has been gaming on Dead Space Remake last night. That's an awesome. I loved that game because it puts you in the seat of an engineer. And I loved that it wasn't like some superhero, somebody with extraordinary powers. You were just an engineer. And you were going to go get stuff done. And you did not care about these aliens with these crazy limbs you had to cut off. I
Oh,
have
you
great
cared.
memories of Dead Space.
You cared at clunky 30 frames per second and a hard drive that took 3 years to load. You cared.
Oh my gosh. And that's the other thing about Demon Souls to go back there. There's two modes, right? The performance and the cinematic. I it doesn't describe it necessarily, but I assume performance bumps you up to 60 FPS.
Yes, and it's a
And
solid locked 60 on that particular game.
that feels so good. Oh my gosh. And then when I bump it down to cinematic, I almost feel sick. I don't know, it's like once you've had 60 FPS, you can't go
Yeah,
back.
I completely
It's
understand
hard.
that one, but that cinematic, that was the original way that I experienced Demon's Souls, that 30 frames per second. So I have that experience locked in my mind. So when I went into it at the launch of the PlayStation 5, I went in at the 30 frames per second, and you know when you remember things and they look far better than they actually are because of nostalgic lenses, or that was the pinnacle of what technology was at the time. I think it's the greatest compliment you can give a game when a remake looks like you remember it. That is what that cinematic mode of Demon's Souls does for me. It makes the game look like I remember it.
It's the nostalgia. Pump up that film grain. Get that
Get
real.
that film grain out of there. Film grain and motion blur, get it out. None of that.
Oh, you take them off. I feel like that
They go
adds nostalgia,
off.
no?
No,
Oh,
no,
they go
it
off.
muddies it
Okay.
for me. Muddies the experience. It makes it blurry and horrible. I turn those settings right off. Chromatic aberration goes off, film grain goes off, and motion blur goes off, completely off. Like I have none of them on, and I so prefer how those games look that way.
So Cowboy says he had to do port forwarding to play remote play with mobile data on PlayStation. Interesting. I didn't have to use port forwarding, but I may be trying to set it up. I was able to play flawlessly from like 400 kilometers away.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
it
this
worked
is the
well.
thing. Some people have it flawlessly. I've had it flawlessly for many years. It's only this new router that's been causing me any challenges and issues. So I just thought, well, let's have a look at if anybody recommends port forwarding. And there's about 12 ports to forward. And some of it's for like your remote wake up, some of it's for mobile data, some of it's for in the house data, and so on and so forth. I think it will improve the experience. It's just one of those. I had to reboot the router to try it, and I haven't managed to get back there before the show started.
Yeah. And we got Obi Rose Kenobi. What's going on,
Obi!
man? How are you doing? In the cantina. What's up, gents? Top of the day to you. And what up, chat? How y'all doing? Absolutely, Obi. Hope you're having a great day. Ron Slusher. I did see that animated series when it came out on Tubi of Dead Space, because I was such a huge Dead Space fan back in the day. Um, I like it. I like the entertainment jump to video games because you have such like a rich history if you've played the game.
Yeah, and I like
Well,
when they add to it, like with the Last of Us series, where they changed the story so it was still a new and unique experience if you had played the game and loved the game, but you got something new and wonderful out of it by watching it. I really enjoy that sort of take on things.
yeah. I say that, yet I feel like I played Last of Us Part 1 on PlayStation and it was so good. I'm like, I don't think I need to see the show. I feel like that was a show. Like I experienced an epic saga. Like I laughed, I cried, I had moments. Like it was amazing. And I had it on the
Yeah,
PS5 remastered. It looked like a show.
yeah.
But
It
yeah,
did.
I
Yeah,
still gotta
the
watch
remake looked
it.
amazing. But yeah, it's like with the comics for Spider-Man coming up. They had a comic release,
Oh,
which is a bit of a prequel for it. And I read that you can read it on the Marvel Unlimited app if you have access to that in your country. And honestly, it's the perfect sort of interim between what we had in Spider-Man in 2018, in Miles Morales in 2020, and then you've got this is the setup where everybody's at just before Spider-Man 2. I like when they do those sort of crossover things as well. It's really quite cool. But yeah, you're 100% right. Like sometimes you're just like, I've lived this though. Why do I need to now watch it?
Obi says he saw a tweet from the weekend from the PS Sound guy. It's always the auxiliary, staff that do all the leaks. I swear, that's where I always hear the leaks from. Oh, the sound guy. He knows what's up. But
Yeah, the guy who
honestly,
made the cup of
music and
tea.
the music in PlayStation Spider-Man, Miles Morales especially, hit a string with me. They're really well done. But he's saying there's something we're not ready for. Well, I look forward to trying something I'm not ready for because this story relates to something I tried, which I had definitely seen before 10 years ago in the making, and now it just has a new skin. But I digress. We are going to get into
We are not getting
what
into
this
that
is
remake
about.
versus remaster conversation again. No, we're not doing it.
This is a we're gonna put on a bit of our tinfoil hats here and
It's got a bit of
speculate.
tinfoil on the front. I haven't got a full tinfoil hat, but there's a bit of tinfoil there for you.
We see here that, hey, what up, David Wilson? Hope you're doing well, good sir. Phil Spencer hasn't decided if the Elder Scrolls will be a Xbox console exclusive. Well, isn't that interesting? Yeah, they don't want 10 million PS5 players paying $70 for it. I mean, they do want it. So, like, how could you say no to all that money, right? So, is it a move that they're going to make? I see it as being a positive business move to make it multi-platform. I think people were expecting it when they first invested in Elder Scrolls. What is your thoughts and feelings on this subject?
It's a very interesting quote from Phil Spencer to me. He's always been very open and honest with his wordings, or at least that's the impression he's always given. But the more he's spoken more recently, the more he has sort of shown himself to be a bit of a liar in the past, especially when it's come to like exclusivity and stuff. When the Activision Blizzard deal started going through, for example, he was saying this is great, more exclusive games for Xbox. But then when, say, the CMA started saying, no, can't do that. Oh, no, we're not doing exclusivity. Every platform will still get all of this. We'll sign deals to make you happy and so on. And when they first took over ZeniMax Media, the big word was, this is great for Xbox. These are all, moving forward, anything that doesn't have a signed contract for multi-platform availability will be an Xbox exclusive title. They've released 2 Xbox exclusives since being taken over in the form of Redfield and Starfield. Redfall and Starfield.
Starfield, yes.
Yeah. Redfield, Starfall, one of the two. I don't know.
Yeah. Red Star.
Red Star. So Red Star has been released. That's their 2 games. And the performance hasn't been great, has it? Like, Redfall was a catastrophe for them. It was an absolute cluster that brought Phil out to say, Starfield could be an 11 out of 10 and we'll never beat Sony. Like, we're last in the war and we're going to stay last in the war. It basically threw Xbox under a bus at that point. And it started to open up the conversation in a lot of different gaming circles of, well, why don't you just put these games on the other platform? People will buy them. And it's when you're struggling to make revenue, when you're struggling to make money back on these 200 million, 500 million games, because news is that Halo Infinite was a 500 million game, $500 million game. For being in development for 12 years, Starfield has probably hit that sort of level. So for him to suddenly come out and say, oh, we haven't decided if Elder Scrolls 6 will be exclusive, even though it was announced 6 years ago as an Xbox exclusive, probably wasn't 6 years ago, but it feels that long ago. To then sort of backtrack on that, it's like, are you failing harder than you think? Or is it a case of these Game Pass numbers, this strategy of putting those games on your platform's subscription model day and date, isn't actually paying off in the long run? And the only way that you're then going to make back on these games is if you do put them multi-platform. Because we've seen people will still buy them on Steam, on PC, to play on their preferred platform. Why not put them on Nintendo? Why not put them on Sony, on PlayStation, and recoup some of the revenue by actually selling the games at the $70 price point? It does open up the conversation of, if Starfield isn't performing on Game Pass, if they aren't getting the numbers or the revenue back from that as well, would we see that on other platforms? Would we see Redfall on other platforms? Maybe a complete edition when they actually finish making the game. It sort of undermined everything that he said about the ZeniMax takeover in the past, and more games on PlayStation for me would be a great thing. I think it might be unlikely that we see things like Starfield go multi-platform, but Elder Scrolls 6, the fact you've got fan bases on multi-platforms, it would just make sense to keep it a multi-platform title.
And I think once you let one domino fall, the rest are. So this fear of maybe Call of Duty only being an exclusive may go away with the reality of the situation that it's hard to say no to 10 million people paying $70.
Because that's what, $70 million out of...
Yes, and
just
they need
putting it on
return
another
on
platform.
investment.
Yeah, it's not a bad return, eh?
Like, chunk away at that 7.5 billion they spent on Bethesda, and chunk away at that 70 billion they spent on Activision. So
I don't think they're ever making that money back, the Activision Blizzard one. If it does indeed eventually go through, if the CMA approve it, I don't think they're ever making that money back. That was a power play move rather than we're going to make loads of money from this.
But the takeaway here is if you're PlayStation and you're worried about some of these exclusives, you may not have to worry. They may be multi-plat, and we're hearing from the horse's mouth himself, Phil Spencer, say that it's hard to say no to $70 million.
It's very hard to say no to It's hard to say no to $70. Let's be honest. Like for you and me, $70 goes a long way. 70 million? Yeah, I'll just be swimming in it. I'll go Scrooge McDuck on that.
Well, let's get into more of the blog this week. There's not too much going on in the blog, so we'll brush over some of these stories and then we'll go put on our tinfoil hats because I got some crazy rumor mills going on. Um, I can't even say this. Eternites, Infinite Hacked
Eternites.
Boss. Eternites, that's what it is. So I've seen this before. They've announced it's like a dancing fighting game.
It's a Persona meets dating sim
Yes.
meets hack and slash thing.
Yeah, we've talked about this game. Essentially, this is just a combat reveal, speaking about how it's going to work, I guess, in their Persona clone here. Yeah, if you're interested in that sort of aspect, you can see the boss battles actually look like they have a type of arena. You're fighting within, and it gives you that kind of Souls-like feeling of that boss being bigger than you, the single sword, and taking him out. I always like that challenge. I think it's essential for video games, but that's just me.
Games can form many different ways. I like the mismatch genre mashup that we've got going on with this particular game. I'm not 100% sure that it's going to be for me personally, because I wasn't hugely into the Persona games, and it was the life sim aspect of the Persona games that I wasn't into. I liked the story, I liked the themes, I liked the combat, and so on and so forth. It was the life sim aspect of it that I struggled with, and I think with Eternites we may be facing the same sort of challenge for me personally, but there is a huge amount of people who love those games. There's a reason they've always been up for Game of the Year whenever they've been released, because they are such high quality, they're so well made, so well written, so well acted, regardless of your localization. So yeah, to have a different version in the world doing something slightly different, as we've said many times in the past, competition's good. Like, have something to challenge Persona, make Persona improve even further. Like, it could only be a good thing, I feel.
And speaking of chipping away at return on investments, look, they're giving you a 10% discount if you're a PlayStation Plus member. So if you're
I
going
think you
to
need to
get
bring
this,
that up on screen, my friend. We haven't got screen share.
oh, what? It says stop. There's no screen share. Oh wow. Oh, Restream is doing this odd thing where I have to like accept my own screen share. It's like what? So
Don't you just love software?
yeah. This whole time I thought I was showcasing all these videos of Eternite, and I guess not. Yeah. So right here, pre-order is available now with 10% discount from PlayStation Plus members. So I assume you're going to start seeing a lot more of that. They'll want to give, a little bit of discount to PS Plus members, and they'll try to give you some of your value through these discounts. They've always done that in so many ways, but it's nice to see on pre-orders for new games.
I do think it's the first time I've seen it on pre-orders. There's two games I've seen it on now. One is the VR game 1v1 thing coming up later this month, and the other one is this on Eternites. I've never seen personally, doesn't mean it hasn't happened before, but I've personally never seen a pre-order discount for PlayStation Plus subscribers in the past. I don't know whether this is a move they are starting to make to try and soften the blow of the price increase of PlayStation Plus, but it would need to be on much bigger titles to actually be an effective softening of said blow.
Right. And perhaps this is just the beginning of the trend. Just thought I'd noticed it, pointed out, and we'll point it out if we see it becoming a trend. Hopefully it is. I'd love to see you be rewarded financially for pre-orders. That would be an interesting move instead of being punished for deluxe editions. So we'll see how that works out. And plus, we need some value back after that last little raise there. So
We do. They've still announced nothing, have they? I haven't missed any news in the last week. I can still remain angry about that one.
yeah, we haven't been like, here's the value you're going to get.
Okay. I
That
will
has
remain
not come
angry
out.
about that then. I shall remain angry.
Yes. Make sure I do this screen share first before I jump into Baldur's Gate. And so this is what I expect from games in 2023. If you're an RPG and you're made for the controller, but you're coming out on a platform that's made that is like, first of all, essential that you have a controller and a gamepad. Make your RPG compatible with that controller, and that's essentially what Baldur's Gate did. Customizable radio menus, adaptive triggers, the cursor mode, and more. So they really took into account people will be playing this on a controller, and they made the experience more compatible with controller players. A lot of RPGs I've seen recently have not done this. And I give my hats off to Larian Studios for really putting efforts behind a controller compatible game.
On 100%. We saw it, one of the PlayStation Plus games that was released this month in September, Black Desert. That is an RPG. I believe it's an MMORPG. I might be wrong on that one, but it's definitely an RPG. And the controller implementation on that, it works, but I wouldn't say it's good. It's very. You can play the game. It feels like you're playing it through a workaround, though. Whereas Baldur's Gate, it was built with controller in mind initially, and I know a lot of that is
Yes.
from the Stadia days of it.
Rest in
But
peace.
just doing that sort of thing, building with your lowest common denominator in mind, is a superb thought process, because it then means people on the Steam Deck, for those playing on PC, they will have a good experience on the Steam Deck because they've got controller inputs, and because it was designed
Right.
with
Good
controller
point.
in mind, it'll work there. Playing it on the ROG Ally, for example, that is a controller input. So designing it with controller in mind from the ground up, it's just such a good idea. This whole trying to port a mouse and keyboard game to a controller setup, it hasn't really worked since Broken Sword way back on the PlayStation 1. That was the last time I sort of felt it had any form of meaning. So, yeah, hats off to Larian on that particular aspect of it. Like, I do have my trials and tribulations with both the game, the release, and all sorts around it, but the way they designed it around controller input, superb. Like, more RPG
Yes.
makers need to take notes.
And look at Karlak. Come on. How can you hate Karlak? Hey, how are you doing?
Do not talk to Crash about Karlak. Right? If you go into one of those streams, just be aware it's not safe for work.
I give huge respect and kudos for that. I love to see it. I'm a big controller player, so it's good. It's good. Just
Thank you
it's
for the
smart.
confirmation there, Cowboy, about Black Desert being an MMO. Thank you for that one, mate.
Oh, appreciate that. Thanks for watching out on the chat. FCAT, what's going on? Yo, BG3 isn't an MMO. No, it is it's like a tabletop game, isn't it?
Yeah,
What
it's based on
it's
Dungeons and Dragons, so it's a dice roll,
right.
make your own adventure. But as a computer game RPG, it's a CRPG. There's too many
CRPG, yes.
things they
And you know
put
what the
before the
C stands
RPG.
for? I learned what the C stands for. Computer.
Yes, that's simple.
What? That's simple. I was expecting cinematic or something like that, or some better C word. I don't know.
No. Let's not go to Australia and say that one.
Oh.
But yeah, when you come to these acronyms, a lot of the time, if you boil it down to as simple as you could possibly do, it works. Like, it took me so long to understand that NPC was non-playable character. It was
Right.
like, what could that stand for? What does that mean? And then, like, when someone said, it was like, wait, what? It's that simple. And so I've just started applying that whole mindset to all sorts of things. And I was referring to them as computer RPGs, not knowing the C stood for computer. for many years, and then when somebody actually confirmed it for me, I was like, yes.
But then, by definition, its release on PlayStation 5 therefore decategorizes it as a CRPG.
No, because the PlayStation 5 is a computer games console.
Okay.
So FCAT
I
says,
guess.
when is Rudig's buying Immortals to prove that I'm right about it being hard?
Oh, when it comes on to PS Plus.
Oh, that's not even buying. Oh,
I don't know. I see Immortals FCAT is a first person shooter, and for me, it's hard to get immersed in a first person shooter. I honestly feel, and I know I have this up aside, first person shooters lend themselves more to VR experiences. And I feel like once traversal is like really hammered down, um, it's gonna be that's where that's gonna be. Uh but it's just hard for me to be in an FPS. Like, I don't know, I find myself removed from immersion. I like seeing the character. But
I
that's
think.
not going to stop me from doing Crota's Revenge. I still got to do that raid.
Yeah, I haven't touched Destiny in probably 2 months at this point in time. So yeah, that's the only FPS I tend to play, and I haven't touched it. So we've got
But
tennis
this
on
game,
court.
so here you don't really have to traverse all too much, right? You play your position. I feel like this would be the perfect, like, I'm going to this side to hit the thing, going to this side, hitting it. Um, I feel like I could
I don't know.
maybe
If you're playing doubles,
50% I'm
maybe.
breaking furniture. Right.
It depends what your
Yeah, because
movement's
you have to
like on it.
jump over the court.
Yeah, if it's
Jump
if it's
all
a
over the court.
free roam, like you move room scale VR, then yeah, you're probably breaking furniture. If it's like C Smash VRS, where you've got your left stick that does your left and right movement, and then you just stand still and smack the ball, you're probably not breaking as much furniture.
Right.
But I want to know what the movement's like in this, because tennis isn't like many other games. You've got a lot of forward and backward movement as well as the side to side movement. I'd personally love to see a
Yeah.
cricket VR game. I think a cricket VR game as a batsman and bowler would be absolutely amazing, because you can do those motions standing still sort of thing to bowl it and to
Yeah,
bat.
that's a good point.
But tennis has a lot of movement in it. So is that movement room scale, like you were saying, running around, hitting the ball and taking the plant furniture out with it? Or is it all on the stick? Are you moving forwards and backwards on the court as well? Because all of the gameplay just seems to be left and right on the baseline from what we're seeing here.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck to a position. This is what I mean. It's like, how did they tackle the traversal, or are
Yeah.
you just in a position? And that's how they're sort of tackling this. You're fixed in a single location.
It's interesting. I like, when it comes to these sort of VR experiences, I like the physical ones. It's why I'm very into Synapse. It's why I love Beat Saber. It's why I love Pistol Whip. Because not only are they fun gaming experiences, they're a good physical workout as well. So, like, if you can't make it to the gym that day, for example, or you just don't have the social energy to leave the house, you can still do something and keep a level of fitness in, some cardio, some boxing. You can put wrist weights on, leg strap weights, and such. Uh,
And
Tennis just
also the gym can be boring.
it
Like,
can be, yeah.
strap this on and you're just enjoying yourself, and at the same time you're being healthy. So
You're
I
getting
find
fit,
that to
yeah,
be a
yeah.
great benefit.
I just hope
It's
it
like,
lends itself well. Like the whole concept
yeah.
of tennis should lend itself to VR well. I hope it's been well made, because we've had a couple of first person shooters recently. I quite enjoy Crossfire Sierra Squad. I've been playing quite a bit of that and enjoying it myself on the PSVR 2. But the other one, the Firewall Ultra, the first party one, it hasn't really landed well at all, because it just feels like a map pack for the original game from the original PSVR, if that makes sense.
Right.
So hopefully this has been implemented well, because I know it's coming to other platforms, other VR platforms, as well as PSVR 2. So fingers crossed, it's a really good tennis title, because it's just one of those sports like cricket, like baseball, like maybe even swimming and boxing and such, that just lend themselves to a virtual experience.
I wonder if you could drown in virtual world. Like,
I love how
how
that's
would
your
you
first question.
react?
Can I kill myself in a swimming pool?
Yeah, I guess it's just like if you couldn't swim in a virtual pool, would you drown in real life? I don't. It's that I don't know.
This
Would
isn't
your
Sword Art
mind
Online. It's not a case of if you die in the game, you die in real life. This is not SAO.
get some stakes on this game? Guys, I'm getting excited because Mortal Kombat 1 will be out this Thursday. Yes, and David Wilson has got it, and I am putting him to the challenge. So maybe Cowboy, you can challenge him as well, because I'm not sure my competitor is is practicing as much as they should be. So maybe I should coach. Cowboy doesn't need any coaching though. I'm sure he'd just go off at the.
Cowboy's the guy I'm turning to get the story from Mortal Kombat 1 because I love the
Yeah,
NetherRealm Studios stories. They are fantastic. The Injustice games are two of my favorite stories in the entirety of video games. Like, full stop. I just love those stories. They're brilliant. But I never managed to play them myself. I have both the games. I'm just terrible at them. So I have never
yeah.
experienced those stories with my own hands. So Cowboy is the person I'm going to be turning to get the story of Mortal Kombat 1.
I don't have the discipline to learn the key combinations and the timing. I think
I totally get that,
that
yeah.
is yeah. And no, we're not going to talk about super long wait times, although FCAT, I saw you beat me. I thought I had the world record at 165 minutes. This guy posted 180 minutes. So give it up to FCAT.
There's a
Putting it
guy
out
in
there.
Australia. I know we're completely off topic and like not even talking PlayStation here, but there is a guy in Australia who posted a picture of a 2,000-minute wait time
Wow.
to get onto Xbox Cloud
That's a
Gaming.
record.
I have
That's a
never
record.
waited to get into PlayStation Cloud Gaming, just to put that out there.
Right, right. But they've never had a AAA day and date at the same time.
There are caveats to that response.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. But at the same time, if you're going to do that sort of thing, make sure your platforms can handle it.
Right, right. Don't do anything that you obviously can't be prepared for. There's a rule of law there, like and and a quality standard too, because anyways, I won't get too much into it.
Yeah,
PlayStation
that's off
Store August
topic. Back here.
2023's top downloads. So, which games are the best this month? Come on, why do we got to divide? Why can't it just be
Because we
everybody?
have more discerning tastes over here in the EU than you guys in the US. You like your shooty, bangy, bangy. We like a bit more nuance.
Game
And by
of the
nuance, I mean FIFA.
year. Game of the year. Game of the year. Armored Core 6. Fires of Rubicon. Taking out number 2 because people stop buying sports games. Just play the sports games from last year. It's the same game.
My
Like
friend, I
only
don't think you understand how big football/soccer is here in the UK and Europe. I told you I was at a wedding this weekend.
yeah.
Every little pocket of people that I went to talk to, because I like to try and mingle with new people at weddings and what have you. I get energy from other people in social situations. Every time I went over, I was just bored immediately because all they were talking about was football. This team, that team. It's like we've got the Rugby World Cup literally on at this wedding. Like, South Africa are playing against Scotland at the time, a home nation, and they're talking about a
Right.
stupid round pig's bladder. That's how big that sport is over here and in the entirety of Europe. It is it
Wow.
is so deeply ingrained in the lifestyle of so many people that if it wasn't number 2, it'd be number 1. Those are the only 2 positions that's ever going to be, and it will be there for the rest of the year.
It's frustrating. It needs to be turned into a live service game and stop releasing new versions every single year.
They are
That's,
they are prime
that's it.
candidates to be live service titles, sports games, because it is, if you're just following the actual world and what have you, a single yearly update with new information, new stats and what have you, new players coming in, and maybe a few new models here and there. I'm sure it would be a cheaper way of doing things for the development studios as well, and they'd still make all of their money from like FIFA Ultimate Team and such. It's not like they're losing cash by doing it that way. They are prime live service candidates, sports games.
Yeah. But other than that, Fires of Rubicon, Game of the Year, obviously at the top of the charts. Remnant 2 is a surprise, holding out there. It's still very popular. Grand Theft Auto 5, people just keep buying it. Now, I have a theory why Grand Theft Auto 5 is so high on the charts.
Because this is the
And here's my
downloads
theory.
list, isn't it? This
Yeah,
isn't
this is downloads.
purchases. This is downloads.
Top-
So every time somebody deletes it off their hard drive and re-downloads it, that's going to count as a new download,
Oh.
isn't it?
Is that so? Because my theory was whenever somebody buys a PlayStation 5, like one of the first games they probably go to would be a Grand Theft Auto.
It's what
So
they
I
know.
feel
It's
like
what they
with-
love, yeah.
Yeah. With every new console purchase, I feel like that's almost integral with the first console boot ups. It's like, well, what am I going to play on this? Well, Grand Theft Auto is just a giant sandbox of a lot of fun, I know. So I feel like
there's
that's
that option,
a big
I
one.
suppose. I do
Sports.
think it's the whole download thing as well, like people just re-downloading
Yeah.
it. I know I've re-downloaded Spider-Man Remastered about 6 times onto my console. I may have redone it again this last week when I got the Spider-Man plates for my console. Seriously, you've got a
Oh, yeah, those look
Spider-Man
nice.
DualShock and a Spider-Man set of plates. The first thing you are going to play is Spider-Man Remastered or Miles Morales. One of the two.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, Miss
That's
Phoenix
still
is
some
seeming
cool
to side
games.
with me. Seems to be re-downloads because it's
Yeah.
such a big game. It's like 150 gig or something ridiculous. And if you've just got the base storage in there, if you haven't sprung for an additional SSD and what have you, just makes sense.
Well, I still say this will win Game of the Year. Mark my words.
We'll see come December
The
when we have our Game
Rubiconians
of the
will
Year
live on.
discussion with the chat.
Yes.
I feel like that will be the biggest argument this podcast has ever had, because chat will not agree with either of us.
Yeah. Well, apparently Spider-Man's going to be something we're not ready for, so I look forward to that. Now we're getting into a bit of the rumor mill here. I don't have yet. Oh wow, yeah. There's your tinfoil hat, or close
bring
to
the
it.
hat back. Yep.
Yeah. Rumor mill. Here we go. First of all, I have a Grand Theft Auto release date. A leaked voice note from a Take-Two executive reveals that October 2023 will be the time when they will reveal the launch date of GTA 6 to be launched in October 2024, confirming the legitimacy of the Take-Two putting copyright strike on this post. The plan is to reveal a year before release and market for 1 year. Do you think that this is a reasonable rumor? Do you think there's some legs to it? It seems to track and seems to make sense because we've heard so much about Grand Theft Auto 6. Why would they not, launch it already?
Two minds by me. One, there was a guy arrested earlier this year for hacking into Rockstar, stealing a bunch of source code and videos and posting them online about GTA 6. And at that point in time, GTA 6 looked like a pre-alpha build game. There is no way, even for a company like Rockstar, that they could go from pre-alpha to full launch in 2 years. I do not see that being realistic, unless they abuse their staff and crunch them to high hell, which we need to call them the hell out for if that's the case. What I can see and has legs is they announce it a year before releasing it. That seems to be how Rockstar have done it in the past. And I think that will be how they do it moving forward. Like, announce it, if they are to say launch it in October 2024, announce it in October 2023. I think it's a little too quick a turnaround, given what we saw earlier this year. But we've seen the abuse within the video game industry and how rampant it is over the last 3 years since the Ubisoft abuse came out, then the Activision Blizzard causing death because of their actions, then Insomniac's abuse, Take-Two's abuse, and so on and so forth. We've seen so many companies abuse their staff, not give a damn about them just to make a buck. So I could see them being crunched to high hell to get this out in October 2024, which would be a crying shame.
I think if it does, I mean, they started development on this years ago. I want to say, haven't they rumored to say after Red Dead Redemption was released, they were working on this, or
So Red Dead
even
Redemption
privy
2
to that?
was 2019,
18.
I want to say. 2018. So, God, 2018 was a stacked year, wasn't it? Jeez. God of War, Spider-Man, Red Dead Redemption. There was a few others that got lost in translation somewhere because they were so good, but those 3 just came out. And so yeah,
Yeah,
even
that
that
is a
long, even
stacked year.
2018 it's still
Dark
asking a
Souls
lot from the
3
development studio. It's
came
asking a
out in
lot.
2018. Gears 5 came out in 2018. What? Why is 2018 a better gaming year than now?
Depends who you are. There are some people who have got an absolutely stacked 2023 because of the type of games they like. I'm not a huge RPG guy. I'm
Right.
not a huge Armored Core guy. I haven't had anything to play since I finished Final Fantasy 16, for example. So yeah, it very much depends
Yeah.
who you are. For me, that story narrative-driven gamer, there's not a lot this year. If you like those big RPG experiences, you're still playing Diablo and you haven't got around to Baldur's Gate yet. Like that's the reality for most people. That's next on the list,
Right.
and then they've got some Fires of Rubicon, and then they've got some Starfield, and then they've got something else. Like it is a stacked year if you are a specific type of gamer.
FCAT has this rumor that Grand Theft Auto is going to cost $150 for the base game. I think that's craziness. I think that
Not a
would,
chance. There'll be a $70
yeah,
edition. It'll be just a
yeah.
box and a disc, and it'll be just the game. But you'll be missing out on stuff if you don't go for like the 150 collectors, or the collectors is going to be like $300, $400, $500, something ridiculous. Because people buy them. We've seen it. I've bought them in the past. I wanted the God of War Ragnarok Jotnar edition to have a Mjolnir. I didn't manage to get one because Scalper's got them all here in the UK because they went through Game UK, the worst bloody retailer on the planet. But I have got like the super duper collector's edition of Spider-Man 2 coming. So yeah, people will buy really expensive editions. I do
19
not.
inches of Venom.
19 inches of Venom, indeed. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Raise those eyebrows. I think $150 will probably be the mid-range for GTA 5. It'll be a basic edition that just comes with all of the additional content.
So, speaking, I know you touched on Final Fantasy 16. We're hearing that from WCF Tech that they shared news at a conference that the Final Fantasy team is releasing 2 paid DLCs plus the PC port of the Final Fantasy 16 game. So this would be great to see the game expanding. We should see some official news, hopefully, on this shortly on details behind the DLC. But like I said before, this is the rumor mill turned on. But yeah, this
Okay, I'm going to come at
could be
you.
down
I'm going to come at you with the
the
response that I
pipeline.
gave you about God of War Ragnarok DLC. How? Why? The story is done. The Final Fantasy 16 story is done. When you complete that game, it is completed. There is nowhere else to go. There is nothing more to do. If you want to keep playing after you roll credits, you have to start a new game. That's it. There's no like running around the open world and doing the odd jobs thereafter. You have to start a new game once you finish because it's finite. It's finished. So if they're throwing DLC at Final Fantasy 16, what is that going to look like? what is that going to be? What's that going to do or achieve? If it's just more side quests, I went through this in my review. The side quests are boring as all sin. I don't want more of that. I'm happy with what I got, actually. I really enjoyed my time with Final Fantasy 16, and I think trying to add to that after the fact is going to spoil it. And like I say, the way it finishes, there's no way to add DLC. It's like, what are you going to do with God of War Ragnarok when that rumor came out? Oh yeah, there's going to be DLC for this next year. Odin's dead. All of the Norse gods that were a problem are dead. The rest are on Kratos' side. So what the hell's the DLC going to be? Like, come on, seriously, all the giants are dead.
Atreus eats some mushrooms and he wakes up somewhere, and then there's
I mean, that was part of the main game. He ate some mushrooms and woke up in Jotnar. Yeah, it's like, come on. Like, there's certain games, there's no way for DLC to be added to them. For me, Final Fantasy 16 definitely fits that mold of there is no way to add DLC, because anybody who has finished it, I don't want to spoil it for folks because it is still a fairly new game, and I know there's people who haven't got to the end of it just yet. Once you get to the end of that game, that's it. It's the end. It's the end of the game, the end of the story, the end of that particular world. You cannot get any more. I don't see how they'd add DLC.
It just may be rumor on rumor, right? And since you've played the game and you know it, you would know that it came to a finite end, and why would there be no more? So good point. Someone who's played the game says there's no room for DLC, so this may just be chopped up in the rumor mill again. Here is something that has a bit more legs, though. New AAA game for PS5, a brand new IP. And who's working on it? Santa Monica Studios. It's going to be a new sci-fi based RPG, is what we're hearing. And they're extracting this from job hirings. So they're hiring for a new project, for a progression developer who is familiar with RPG elements, resources, inventory. The job descriptions again detail an unannounced sci-fi game. This was leaked on the official Santa Monica Studio careers page here. Apparently it's been in development for 2+ years already. This is the same studio who's only done God of War since 2005. And now I believe they have the permission to sort of let fly and make a game here. What do you make of this rumor from some job listings?
I'm very much in two minds about this one. I would love to see it. I think if there is going to be a new IP from Sony Santa Monica Studios, it will most likely be good. They've always produced quality, whether it was in Twisted Metal, whether it was in God of War, whether it was in the God of War Norse saga. They've always produced quality content, and they've not been afraid to shake things up over time as well. So yeah, I would love to see a sci-fi RPG adventure from this particular studio. I think they would do a great experience. The flip side for me is I've heard basically this rumor before. This exact rumor I heard back in 2016 when they were hiring first-person and third-person shooter developers. And they weren't actually developing either of those. They were developing the mechanics for the Leviathan axe in God of War 2018. So this could be the next chapter of God of War. It could also be a completely new IP. Either way, Sony Santa Monica going on a hiring spree means we're getting new content from them within the next 3 to 5 years. I'm good with that. Like, they've always produced quality experiences for me. I've always enjoyed everything they've played, even their weaker entries. So yeah, bring it on. Bring me more of it.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing it. And I think it's well within the realm of possibility.
Rodix? Rodix! Don't leave me alone! Oh no! Okay, so the main host has completely disappeared on me. I don't know what happened there. FCAT, no mention of Insomniac just started developing Wolverine. I haven't seen anything on that one, to be honest with you. I didn't expect to hear any more about Wolverine until such a time as Spider-Man was out.
Ah,
So, what did you do?
I got I got booted. And then I
Hey,
just see you take off your hat. You're like, well, I guess this is me now.
again, to be fair, can you see how red I am? I am so damn warm wearing that hat. I was just talking to FCAT about
Oh,
no
you
mention of
can say
Insomniac
whatever
developing
now.
Wolverine. I can say
No mention.
whatever I want.
Well, apparently we got strike issues, and we're hearing fears that the SAG strikes may be affecting video games as well. There was companies brought in, such as Insomniac, into those filings. Unfortunately, we may see uh, disruption when it comes to motion capture, voice actors, script writings, when it comes to even Take-Two Games, EA, as well as Insomniac. They're asking for protections from AI as well as 11% wage increases. So whether or not this is going to happen, this is the fight that is happening on the battlegrounds right now um, between the writers and the video games, well, the video game people and the companies paying them. So
It's only certain companies, which is a bit of a blessing to us consumers, which is great. I'm very disappointed to see that Insomniac is one of the ones not paying their people an appropriate wage. I do think the fact that no other PlayStation studio has appeared on that list is just going to put more pressure upon Insomniac to sort it out. Because literally, if every other PlayStation studio team has their stuff together and is paying their people appropriately, Insomniac can't turn around and say, "Hey, look, everybody else is doing it." Like, just pay your people, boys and girls. Just do it properly.
yeah,
And
I
Mr.
mean,
Wilson,
how
I
many
didn't even
profits are
see the
you making?
messages.
No, that was me. That was me. Don't bring up Starfield. This isn't a Starfield show. I
We could do
remove
a
you.
special PlayStation view on Starfield if you want at some point. It would be its own
I had that.
standalone episode. But yeah, we're a PlayStation show. That's not on PlayStation. We can't talk about it. We've not been playing it. What can I say?
Yeah, exactly. The last thing I want to bring up on the show today before we head out is the industry disruptors. So there was a talk with some people high up in Sony, and they were discussing that the way the market is evolving with gaming is not how it's been happening in the past. When before people were trying to innovate to make games better to get into the industry, now we see companies like Google, Netflix, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, which are being this article said barbarians at the gate. What they're doing is they are just, instead of innovating to become part of the gaming sphere, they are simply taking, repackaging, and selling back to the same consumers, trying to siphon off however much they can. And it's a little tough to see. It makes sense from a business perspective. However, the end result is hurting gamers' experiences in the end.
I don't think from a platform perspective it's hurting gamers' experiences because these people are trying to break into an area that if you want to succeed over the big guys, so if you want to be, look at Nintendo in the last generation with the Wii U, they were nowhere. They sold like 200,000 units of the Wii U or something ridiculously low like that. It was a catastrophic failure for them. They had to innovate and come back to be able to compete with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. And they did that. They brought us the Switch, and it was a fantastic console. And I think that people like Amazon, Facebook, Apple, Google, and co, they need to do something like that. Google was innovative by being one of the first cloud consoles. It was literally a console experience without any hardware required. What they didn't then do was stock that console with unique experiences you could only have there. You could have those experiences on the PlayStation that you already had, on the Switch that you already had, or the Xbox that you already had. The problem with Luna is, as they say, they're just packaging up old content and selling it back to the consumer. You look at what Google and Apple are doing with their mobile stores, they are just packaging up old content in a subscription fee and selling it back to the consumer. If you buy the Google Play Pass, one of the games included with it is the original Final Fantasy VII, a PlayStation 1 game that most people still have access to in one way, shape, or form, and has been superseded by its remake, which is a phenomenal reimagining, remake, and change to this original world. But other games on there are things like Stardew Valley, Terraria. We've also got Dead Knight or something like that, one of the side-scrolling Soulsborne type games. You've got Limbo, and so all of these games I've had from PlayStation Plus. Every single one of these games has come to me through PlayStation Plus. Why would I need to go and spend £4.99 a month on the Pixel Play Pass for something that I've already had on other platforms? I think what these companies aren't understanding is that your hardcore gamers, the gamers who are going to play these big AA, AAA games, they already have ways of playing these AA, AAA games. And just packaging up old content and trying to sell it back to this exact same demographic isn't going to work. And whilst, yes, it's sad to see people trying to break into this industry and just doing a repackaging, it's not going to serve them well in the long run. We already lost Google Stadia because that wasn't doing what PlayStation did when it first came into the industry, what Nintendo has continued to do when it's been in the industry, what Xbox has had to do to survive within the industry. They haven't gone through iteration and evolution. They are just packaging and reselling. Luna is not long for this world. That'll be joining the dead tech graveyard soon enough. I don't see the Pixel Pass, the Google Play Pass, or even the Apple Arcade lasting that long because not enough people are going to pay for them to be viable alternatives where they're just paying out money to developers every single month. When people aren't paying you the subscription fee, you can't keep paying the people who are part of that subscription fee. There needs to be a paradigm shift in what people are offering if we're to see new folks enter into the hardware, software, gaming platform sphere. And no one's doing that at the moment. No one at all, not even the big three. So, yeah, I agree with what's being said there, and I hope they all fail miserably so that they actually realize we need that innovation. Ron.
What are we getting with $90 a month?
Even your OnlyFans isn't worth that much, mate. I'm sorry.
I mean, $90.
You knock about $20 off that, I'm there. But that one, nah, you're not worth $90, mate.
Maybe
sorry.
a year. Maybe a year.
Oh, you're getting very exclusive content.
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming out. I want to thank Dorgon for hanging out. That is our show for this week. It was a little light on the PlayStation blog side, so we had to fill it up with some rumors and some out there tinfoil hats, as Dorgon messaged me.
I definitely think it's PlayStation's. I think they've purposely stayed quiet after that whole PS Plus debacle. And they're going to remain quiet a little bit longer until they've got good news about Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, or perhaps a showcase.
That would be nice, yeah.
We're talking about sometime maybe in September, hopefully. I feel like they would have announced it by now.
They've been... If the rest of the year is anything to go by, they'll announce it less than a week before it happens. So,
really? Is that how they did it last time?
Yeah, the June one, they announced it the Thursday before the Tuesday that it happened. So we're not going to get much time at all prior to it that we know about this showcase. That has been PlayStation through 2023. Let's stay silent. It ain't good for us, guys. We need a bit more as fans, as players, as podcast hosts. We need more.
Or we'll keep going
change
to
the way you're talking.
Next, DLC for Spider-Man 2. I'll be rumored about.
That'll happen. There was DLC for Spider-Man 1, so there'll be DLC for 2, quite sure.
But yeah. Ron, I also want the link for educational purposes. Thank you, Phoenix, for the idea. Until next week. Oh, well, what do you got going on? What's going on at the Doragon station?
So Dorgon has had a busy week last week. I think I ended up actually putting 3 videos out. So if you could go watch any of those, that would be amazing. I did one on Human Anatomy VR. That was a game code supplied to me by Virtual Medicine. Fantastic program, incredible educational tool. Go have a watch of that video if you would be so kind.
I noticed
I've also
on Anatomy VR, you didn't cover the part that I wanted to see.
What was that? Was it below the belt by any chance?
you just kept going over like shoulders and things. You know what the viewers want to see.
There was a reason for that. It's called monetization.
They want to see if the good stuff's in there.
The good stuff is in there. If you crank it up to university level and have a full cadaver on, everything is on show. It's all anatomically correct and it can be pulled apart, which made me wince. I'm not going to lie, pulling that bit apart. Yeah, it's sharp intake of breath and things get sucked up inside sort of thing. But yes, it is all there. It's completely anatomically correct. It is a fully educational tool all the way up to medical professional level. So yes, if you do want to be a bit lewd and go and look at penile things and what have you, you can do so.
Penile things. If I could name the podcast after this, I'd name it Penile Things.
Penile Things. So yeah, I've got that, and then I'm working on a remote play video at the moment, sort of based around the Portal. Nice. Hopefully have that one out in the next couple of weeks for folks.
Sweet. Well, thanks everyone, and I myself, I'll just be gaming on some games this week. You can catch me at 10 p.m. Hopefully, I'll try and stick to that stream schedule. But otherwise, just hanging out, playing some good. I got to get back into Demon Souls, get more through that, but it's going to be hard to find the next game to stream for a little bit. I have to jump back into Last of Us Part 2. I think I left that game midway through. I feel like when I stream Demon Souls, it's just so much frustration.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah. I would highly recommend, as long as you've still got PS Plus Premium. Yeah. I know it's a first-person shooter, but bear with me on this one. You will enjoy it because it's an Insomniac game. Jumping into the cloud and playing Resistance 3, I think that would be an excellent experience before you. And because it's a PlayStation 3 era one, and it's a narrative-driven game, it's only 10 or so hours to get through the entire story.
Yeah, I could check it out. Thanks for the suggestion, and we'll see if I break my fear of first-person shooters. But find out next week. Until then, we'll check you all later.
Bye, all.
To believe in me? Why try? Do I even